Most people are chasing happiness like it's some destination at the end of a long road. They think one more promotion, one more relationship, one more achievement will finally make them feel complete. And they spend their entire lives waiting for the right moment, waiting for things to change, waiting for someone else to hand them peace. But here's the brutal truth: happiness was never something you find. It's something you build through understanding, through discipline, through deliberate and conscious choice. The Stoics figured this out thousands of years ago, yet modern men are still living like confused children chasing shadows. So let me ask you something that might shake you to your core. What if everything you ever believed about happiness is completely fundamentally wrong? You've tried. You've worked hard. You've chased goals, met milestones, built things, and still something feels missing. That hollow emptiness that shows up late at night when everything is quiet and your mind starts asking questions you can't answer. Why am I still not satisfied? Why does it feel like I'm always one step behind where I truly want to be? That feeling isn't weakness. It's a signal that you've been playing the wrong game this whole time. In this video, you're going to discover 5 powerful Stoic truths that will completely shift the way you think about happiness, about life, and about yourself. These aren't motivational quotes designed to make you feel good for 20 minutes. These are principles tested by warriors, emperors, and philosophers who faced suffering far greater than yours and still lived with unshakable inner peace. By the end of this video, you will not just think differently. You will see yourself differently. And that alone changes everything. Before we begin, I want to warn you. What you're about to hear won't feel comfortable. One of these 5 truths, and I won't tell you which one yet, is something most men resist for years. They hear it, nod their heads, walk away, and change absolutely nothing. That's because understanding something and truly accepting it are 2 entirely different things. Stay with me until the very end, because the last truth will hit you in a way you never saw coming. Truth 1. Happiness is not a feeling. It's a standard. Here's the first truth. And it will cut right through everything you think you know. Happiness is not a feeling you stumble into on a good day. It's not the rush you get when something goes your way. That kind of happiness is fragile. It's entirely dependent on circumstances. It breaks the moment life decides to test you, and life will always, without exception, test you. The Stoics called it eudaimonia, not pleasure, not comfort, but a deep and sustained alignment between your values and your daily actions. In simple terms, real happiness is the result of becoming the kind of person you genuinely and deeply respect. Think about the last time you felt truly at peace. Was it because everything around you was perfect? Or was it because you had done something meaningful, something that fully reflected who you truly wanted to be? Most men never stop to ask themselves that question. They keep outsourcing their happiness to results, to other people, to validation from a world that is completely and utterly unreliable. And here's the curiosity gap most people never stop to consider. If the source of your happiness lives entirely outside of you, what happens the moment it disappears? The Stoics answered this question long ago. The only sustainable happiness comes from within, from your character, your values, your choices. Everything else is borrowed peace. And borrowed peace always expires. Truth 2. You cannot control what happens, only how you respond. Now here's where it gets real. Every time life hits you with something unexpected, a loss, a betrayal, a failure that knocks you sideways, your first instinct is to fight the situation, to resist it, to ask why this is happening to you specifically. And that resistance right there is quietly destroying your inner peace from the inside out. Marcus Aurelius, the most powerful man in the ancient world, wrote in his private journal, "What blocks the road becomes the road." He wasn't writing a book to impress anyone. He was writing to remind himself, because even emperors lose their footing. The Stoics understood something that modern culture refuses to accept. Your circumstances don't determine your peace. Your response does. But here's the emotional gut punch most people completely miss. You've been holding yourself hostage to events you cannot control. You've been bleeding mentally, losing sleep, losing years over things that were never in your hands to begin with. And the men who are genuinely winning right now, the ones who seem unshakable regardless of what hits them, they aren't luckier than you. They've simply stopped fighting reality and started working powerfully within it. That's the real FOMO you should feel, not fear of missing out on things, but fear of missing out on the version of yourself that could exist if you stopped resisting and truly started responding. Truth 3. Desire without direction is destruction. Look at the men around you. Most of them are perpetually restless. They want more money, more status, more pleasure, more validation. Their want is loud, constant, and completely undisciplined. But they never stop to ask, what specifically do I want, and why do I actually want it? The Stoics called undisciplined desire the root of all human suffering. Epictetus, a man born into literal slavery who owned almost nothing, said that wealth consists not in having great possessions, but in having few wants. And here's the comparison that might genuinely sting. While you're endlessly scrolling, endlessly craving the next thing that will fix your life, there are men out there who have found real clarity. Not because life gave them more, because they consciously chose to want with intention. Not less ambition, less noise. There's a critical difference between those two, and that difference separates the peaceful from the perpetually miserable. So here's your reflection question for this moment. Are you chasing what you actually want, or are you chasing what the world simply told you to want? Because most men are living inside someone else's definition of success and genuinely wondering why it never satisfies them. And here's the curiosity gap that cuts deep. What if everything you're currently running toward was never really yours to begin with? Strip away the opinions. Strip away the comparisons. What remains is the only thing truly worth pursuing. If what you're hearing right now is making you think about your life in a way you haven't before, then you're exactly where this channel was built for. We don't do surface-level motivation here. We go deep, we go real. If growth, discipline, and genuine mental clarity matter to you, subscribe and hit the bell. Not because I asked you to, because men who are serious about their own transformation don't leave wisdom behind. Now let's continue. We're halfway through, and what's coming next goes even deeper. Truth 4. Your identity is either your prison or your power. Here's where the real internal shift begins. Most men walk through life carrying an identity they never consciously chose. They were shaped by their environment, their childhood wounds, their failures, their fears. And without realizing it, they start defending that identity, even when it's slowly destroying them from within. This is just who I am. I've always been this way. Those are the most dangerous sentences a man can ever speak to himself. Because identity is not a fixed, permanent thing. It is a daily practice. The Stoics believed in continuous self-examination, not self-criticism, not shame, but honest, unflinching, clear-eyed evaluation of who you're becoming. Marcus Aurelius wrote every single night, asking himself whether he had lived according to his values that day. Not his feelings, not his mood, his values. Now here's the identity shift that changes absolutely everything. You are not your past. You are not your patterns. You are not the sum of your worst moments. You are what you choose to think, what you choose to do, and what you choose to actively become starting today. And here's the curiosity gap that most men never confront honestly. If you could genuinely let go of the identity that has been quietly holding you down, who exactly would you become? Most men never answer that question. They're too attached to the story of who they've been to ever imagine the reality of who they could be. But that imagination is precisely where your real power lives. Truth 5. Memento Mori. Remember that you will die. This is the truth most men resist the hardest. This is the one I warned you about in the very beginning. Death, not as a dark or depressing thought, as the greatest, most clarifying teacher you will ever have. The Stoics practice Memento Mori, the deliberate, daily remembrance that your time here is finite. You have a limited number of mornings left, a limited number of choices, a limited number of real chances to become who you were meant to be before you arrived on this earth. And every single day you delay, every day you choose comfort over growth, distraction over discipline, and noise over clarity, you are spending time you cannot ever get back. Here's the urgency that most people only feel when it's far too late. On your deathbed, you won't wish you had scrolled more, stayed comfortable longer, or avoided more discomfort. You will wish you had lived more boldly, forgiven sooner, built deeper, and chosen the harder path more often. The FOMO you should genuinely feel right now is not about someone else's highlight reel. It's about your own life. The version of you that could still exist if you truly embraced the finite and precious nature of your remaining time. And here's the most powerful question in this entire video. If you knew exactly how many days you had left, would you still live the way you're living today? Sit with that. Because the Stoics saw death not as an end, but as the ultimate, unapologetic standard. So here we are. 5 truths. Not 5 tips. Not 5 hacks. 5 fundamental, irreversible shifts in how a man must think if he ever truly wants to know what real, lasting happiness feels like. Happiness is not something that happens to you. It is something you build deliberately from the inside out. Control over circumstances is an illusion, but your response to life is always completely in your hands. Your desires, left undisciplined and unchecked, will silently consume you. What you choose to want defines the quality of your entire existence. Your identity is not fixed, it is a daily, conscious decision that you either make intentionally or allow the world to make for you. And death is not your enemy. It is your greatest, most honest motivator. Now here's the moment where most people nod, feel genuinely inspired for 20 minutes, and then return to exactly how they were living before they pressed play. And that is the saddest part, not the struggle, not the failure, but the knowing and still choosing not to change. You have 2 paths in front of you right now. One is familiar, comfortable, unchanged. You scroll to the next video, feel good for a moment, and tomorrow you are exactly the same man. The other path is harder. It requires you to actually sit with these truths, to ask yourself the uncomfortable questions you've been avoiding, to choose differently, starting today. Not tomorrow, not when conditions are finally perfect, today, because the Stoics were never theoretical philosophers sitting in ivory towers. They were men of relentless daily action. And action is the only language that reality has ever respected. You already know what to do. The only real question is, will you finally do it? Drop one single word in the comments right now. Just one word that describes what you are choosing to change about yourself after watching this. That's it. One word. Because stating it out loud makes it real, makes it yours, makes it binding. If this video made you think differently, share it with one person who genuinely needs to hear it. And if you haven't subscribed yet, what exactly are you waiting for? This channel exists for men who are serious about building themselves from the inside all the way out. More is coming. Subscribe and stay ready. Until next time, choose wisely, live deliberately, and never stop becoming.